Well, that's the next video game. That's what that says. Some type of food there, like a hamburger, some rice, and what's that? Sauerkraut. And not a very good picture, but anyway. The next video game. And I'm not talking about food. Okay, today we're going to try to, I think everybody who watches this, who's watching this, and we're going to try to, if we could get this in a half hour, it would be a miracle. But I'm going to talk about an incident that occurred at Activision. Activision on 2701 Olympic Boulevard in Santa Monica, California. And actually, there's a website. I'm going to give you the link below. But there's a website that shows some of the documentation that occurred that relates to this incident that occurred. And it is concerning sexual harassment. And anyway, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that are on the website, just trying to clarify some things. And basically, I'll be reading from a statement in a few minutes that I drafted. And that's what this is going to be about. So I thank everybody who's watching. And here we go. Earl Afari Hutchinson wrote a book, and it was called Assassination of the Black Male Image. A pretty good book. I am a public official. I ran for the office of Mayor of Long Beach and Mayor of Los Angeles. And I'm known as a fighter for the fair housing and an activist against housing discrimination and government racism and corruption. And I'm a supporter of Black Lives Matter. This is the reputation I brought to Activision at the end of February 2022. I am a temporary worker through a temporary job agency. I imagine Activision and some people at Activision did not appreciate my views, but I never made a point to directly express any of my political views while working at Activision. Without legal assistance, I have won in court cases against the IRS, EDD, Hyundai Motors, and others. Racism and retaliation occur in this country because the financial penalties are not strong enough. Let's see how much time we got here. Okay. Around Wednesday, July 13th, my temporary assignment at Activision was ended abruptly by contractor Williams Lee around 12 noon. I do want to clarify that I was a temporary worker, and when temporary workers are on assignment, their assignment will have a beginning and an end at some point, unless they're hired full-time. So when as in my example, when I was my assignment ended, that's the correct category, is to say assignment ended, or no work was available at that point. Some people may classify this as a termination of employment, but technically it's not a termination. Activision could not terminate my employment. Williams Lee could not terminate my employment because I was not employed by Activision and I was not employed by Williams Lee. So some people want to make that statement, but I guess they can say any statement they want to, but the factual and accurate statement would be that the assignment ended. I was not employed by Williams Lee or Activision. I would normally not make a video with such views, but I do so because I was denied fair opportunity to respond to the allegations and documentation of Cortez Matthews. I don't necessarily consider Cortez Matthews' complaint to be, his document to be a complaint, because when I received a copy of it, it was an attachment to an email which he wrote. I did not see the body of the email, but the actual document that I'm quoting here and making reference to, the actual document was an attachment. It did not have a name on it, did not have his name on it. It did not have an address, did not have a phone number, so there was no way to reference, was this a draft, had somebody else written this. I believe somebody else wrote it or helped him to write it. I think it's pretty obvious when you get a chance to read the document. You'll see that it's very contradictory, and it's just a narrative that somebody has wrote up to apply to a situation. Some of it doesn't make any sense at all. Some of it, most of it, can't be proven that actually it occurred as he stated. And of course, I do dispute most of the document, the wording that he uses, and also the circumstances that he does describe, as they are not factual. Let's see. I reserve the right to modify or delete this video at any time. I heard that his name is Cortez Matthew. I heard that his nickname is Baby. Much like Babyface Nelson or Baby Huey. I did not have sex with Baby Cortez, nor did I sexually harass Baby Cortez. If any of you are faced with having to defend yourself in such situation, make sure to avail yourself of the McDonnell-Douglas burden shifting test, and if applicable, read the State of California UNRRA Act provisions. That's the UNRRA Act, UNRUH, Civil Code Section 51. It may not apply to employment situations, but read it anyway so you can get an idea of how you might have to defend yourself. The document of Baby Cortez is an attachment, and it's not signed or dated or addressed by Cortez. I'm not sure. It looks like he sent it to a mailbox called the mailroom mailbox at Activision. Looks like he sent it there, but I was not sure who was on that mailroom folder or list as to which employees were on it, whether it was Chris Jenkins or Bobby or Brian Smith. By the way, the principals here that we're talking about, Brian Smith is the facilities director, for Activision at that location. Chris Jenkins is the supervisor for Williams Lee at that location. There's a gentleman named Bobby. He works in the same department as Chris Jenkins, which would be hospitality, mailroom, office services, and that was the same department I was working in as a temp. So Bobby was another person in that department, and Cortez Matthews, of course, and Galila was also in that department that I know of. There was also a receptionist named Greg. You may hear me mention his name. He was a new person that started around June 9th, I believe, the same time that Cortez and Galila. They actually started around June 9th, and then I think Greg started the following week. But the three of them were employees of Robert Half Legal, Robert Half International. I say Robert Half International. They were the ones that put Cortez and Greg and Galila at that site location. I believe that based on the documentation that you get to read by Baby Cortez, that you'll see that he has the Jesse Smollett complex. At the location, it takes about 5 minutes to walk from kitchen to kitchen at the Penn Factory location, which looks like a large open space warehouse. There was no telephones, and I imagine most people were using company cell phones. Since most people were also working remotely during the 4.5 months that I was there, most people were working remotely. There was a lot of downtime with nothing to do. Let's see. Up until July 12th, which was when a lot of the employees returned from working remotely. I was let go on July 13th. So that was a day or two around the time the employees came back. Interestingly, if you read the documentation from Cortez Matthews, he complains about my conduct at work on 10 separate days. But on 11 other days, June 15th, 16th, 20 to 24, 27, 29, and July 5th and July 6th, there's no complaints from Cortez about my work conduct. So it seems a little confusing that on the majority of the time he worked with me, there was no complaints from him. Um, let's see. So I found that Galila and Cortez were very good workers, and but they were creative and they were artistic. But maybe not so good on time management, and that may have been because they just started. I was assigned to train them for a 1 week period, which I did. Um, and they were not exactly attentive while being trained. I was training them together, but then I realized since they were not being attentive, at one point Cortez was on his cell phone, and I said, "Don't do that." And at one point, Galila just right in the middle of my sentence, she just turns her head and starts talking to Cortez. So not attentive, not respectful of the training. Soon as we started to train, they said they saw one of the refrigerators because we basically your job is, excuse me, you go from coffee machine to coffee machine. There's 4 different kitchens, 4 different coffee machines, and you have to maintain them and clean them. You're not servicing them, but you're just maintaining to make sure that the milk product is there, and make sure the machine is working. And then you also have snacks you have to maintain, and you have sodas and drinks in the coolers, and then all the supplies that go with everything. So you have to maintain all of that. And so early on, probably within an hour of the training, the first thing they both said to me was, "That cooler looks terrible. Can we change that around?" So I said, "Oh, okay. We got 2 people here that, they want to be in charge. They want to run things their own way, and that's okay. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to train them too well because they're already gung ho." So I let them do one of the coolers over by themselves. I didn't give them any instruction. And of course, they didn't do it exactly correctly because they didn't leave room for the milk product that was left over, and they didn't leave room for the employees' lunches. But this was because they were just wanted to do it their own way, and they wanted to change things, and uh, they kind of, I think they should have tried to learn the way it was being done already, and then maybe down the line, 2 or 3 weeks from then make some small changes if you want to. But I would say that, even though they seem to want to do things their own way and not necessarily be team players, um, they were artistic and they were creative, and they didn't do anything that I couldn't have done, you know, anything particularly out of order. I mean, it's not that complicated a job. But sometimes they did do things which I felt were time wasters. And of course, there was not a lot of people there at the time. It was almost some days there was nobody there except the security guards and the people in our department. There was no Activision employees there. So it was a little tedious, but I just felt that, they would learn things as they go along. So I even tried to train them by having them work separately from each other just to see how that would go, so they wouldn't be distracting each other. So I did try that a little bit. Excuse me. Let's see. Cortez claimed that he and Gilila walked around every 15 minutes, while I did not. That was a statement he made after I had released them from my training, but I was still there working as part of the department. And I was going from building to building, servicing the machines, cleaning, or either turning on the machines, and also checking the stock in the other building, which was called the Water Garden building. Some reason maybe he didn't understand that I was doing the same thing he was doing, or he kind of felt that because they were walking around every 15 minutes and I was not. I don't know how he came to that conclusion, but that was the conclusion he came to, because I mean, he wasn't exactly at the other building watching what I was doing, so how did he come to that conclusion? But anyway, I didn't try to challenge him on that statement, because I couldn't see why he'd be walking around every 15 minutes in the building that was essentially empty. And I think maybe, to his credit, he was walking around to make it look like he was doing some work, and that's okay. You want to stay busy. But anyway, so I had complained about unsafe food practices before they got there. There was mold on one of the milk containers. I believe that we were keeping the food too long. And when they started, we still were keeping the food too long. If we have leftovers from lunch or something, I believe we were keeping the food too long. And they had put cups into the cabinets. And, they were, Cortez is tall, and Galila is a little shorter, so it's like they were using the stools to put supplies into the cabinets, and then I think they got carried away a little bit, and they were putting loose sleeves of cups in the cabinet without having the plastic around them. I thought that was unsanitary to put cups in a cabinet without the plastic around them. It wasn't any point to it. But they didn't listen to me, and so if there's spiders, there's bugs, whatever in that cabinet, they're going to get on those cups. So whatever, there could be some cleaning solution in there. I don't know. But I'm just saying I didn't agree with that practice. And at one point, they were using a vacuum cleaner to stick it inside the coffee beans, coffee beans insert to the coffee machine. They were sticking a vacuum cleaner in there, and I didn't agree with that. But I mean, it wasn't in the manual anywhere. I don't know who told them to do that, but that's what they were doing. I thought that was unsanitary. A vacuum cleaner that's been on the floor, possibly been somewhere where there's some type of dirt, and you're putting it inside of a coffee machine where people have to use those coffee beans to drink with. I said, this is kind of like beyond me. Little things like that would happen, which I brought to Brian's attention. There was one of the repairmen. This is the actual repairman for the machines, not myself, complained that there was maggots in the machine. And I don't think anybody really understood, except maybe me, that the reason why there was maggots in the machine was because, possibly, is because the machine was left dormant for like a week and a half. And during that time, it was very warm inside the machine. And not only was it warm, but the door was closed. So because it was warm and the door was closed, and because the person who was supposed to be cleaning them, which was not me or Cortez or Galila, the person didn't clean them. They left dirt or milk or dried milk inside the machine. That's what created the magnets. That was completely realistic, but when I brought it to Chris's and Brian's attention, they didn't really take any corrective actions to make sure it's going to happen again. And also the maintenance people told us to not take the milk out of the machine. We were taking it out every night and then putting it back in the morning. And he said that was degrading the quality of the milk. Well, when I brought that to their attention, which the maintenance people brought to their attention, they basically didn't want to hear it. So they didn't care about that the milk wasn't not at the right temperature in terms of safe food practices, which I thought it was unsafe. And of course, they didn't want to hear that. So basically, I just said it once or twice and that was it. Let's see. And I do have the text messages from Brian where he acknowledged what I was saying, and and at one point Chris told me to take Brian off the text message chain. So they didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it. Maybe he didn't want to hear about complaints of sexual harassment either. I don't know. How many blacks work at Activision in full-time employment? I'm just skipping around here. See my hand up? I'm not waving. This is not a wave. I'm trying to say how many blacks work at Activision in full-time employment, not as temporary contractors, but full-time employment. And I don't mean administrative people. I mean just regular workers. Let's see. I am a black male, perceived to be gay, perceived to have a disability, and perceived to be over the age of 60. How many people work at Activision who are over the age of 60? I'm not waving. I'm just saying how many people are over the age of 60. I believe that, I guess, if you have people at Activision, which I believe that the Robert Half employees, which was Greg and Cortez and Galila, maybe not so much Galila, but I think that they were in this little conspiracy where they were trying to entrap me. And of course you can't use entrap unless you're talking about the police, but could have been a conspiracy to make me do something that I wouldn't normally do, to ask me questions or to lead me down some road or something. And because, I think I'm a relatively smart person, but I'm also more naive than I would want to be. So if I saw something like this coming where somebody's kind of plotting against me, I probably wouldn't even, I wouldn't recognize it. But anyway, so yeah, but I think there is some law that says that if you're trying to get somebody to do something in a civil setting, not a police or government setting, and you're trying to get them to do something that they normally wouldn't do, that's considered to be a civil conspiracy that you're participating in by making that person do those things. And I think we can see that from the conduct of Matthews here. If you believe the contradictions that are in his story. Um, do we still believe everyone in America is entitled to a fair hearing before we lynch them? Do we still believe that? I wasn't given the fair opportunity to respond to the allegations of the baby Cortez and whoever helped him write his diatribe because I was out the door. You know, I think somebody mailed it to somebody by mistake or not by mistake, but as soon as I saw it pop up on the screen, and I didn't have a laptop up to this point, but I was given a laptop that Wednesday, I believe, the Wednesday they ended my assignment. And within that short time period of just between, say, 9:30 and 12 noon, I just happened to look at the email section of Outlook on the computer, and then I saw this email pop up, and it was from Cortez, and it looked like it was had a document attached, and then it had copies of screenshots, which would have been text messages from his phone that were between me and him, and then he had the document attached. I don't know if he realized or if he sent it. I don't know if he realized that I was on that email. I really wasn't on the email chain. I just had access to the mailbox. So I could see the mailroom mailbox in Outlook. But somebody sent it, and then as soon as I saw it, the person deleted it. So I have no idea what was going on. I don't know why it was sent to those people, what was the purpose, and why was it deleted. But I was able to go into the deleted section and then see a copy of what the document was. Anyway, let's see. July 1st, 2022, okay, about 3:10, I'm sitting in the lunchroom, and this was right before the holiday. The holiday was July 5th, and July 5th was, let's see what we got here. Okay, I'm trying to watch my time here. July 5th, we were off from work, so that was July 1st, the Friday before July 5th. And it was very slow. There was almost no employees at work. And so Galila, contrary to a lot of what you'll read in Cortez's manifesto there, Galila actually sought me out. I was in the building. She sought me out. She told people, she told security she was looking for me, and she told Bobby she was looking for me. So these people told me she was looking for me, and then her and Cortez, I'm sorry, came up to me, and she wanted to ask me a question. So she said, "Well, we have some milk in the cooler, and the date is coming up to the 5th. You know, why don't we just throw out the milk that's dated the 5th because nobody's going to use it this weekend?" I said, "Well, why don't we throw it out when we get to that date? Why do we need to throw it out ahead of time? I mean, it's nothing wrong with it." And of course, we had a difference opinion over if milk was good so many days after the date, or should we throw it out on the date. So it was a difference of opinion there also. But I just thought that was a kind of like waste of company money to be throwing out milk. I mean, I'm talking about gallons of milk before we got to the 5th. We're only on the 1st. So in the process of that, she was sitting down with Cortez and myself. She was standing because she's a little shorter. But Cortez has these long legs. So he was sitting kind of at an angle to me, but across from me, but probably kind of like at an angle. And so if I'm sitting like that, maybe I'm sitting at a little bit of an angle like that. But he's sitting directly across from me. He's sitting on like a bar stool chair. And he's swinging his leg. So it's just, he's swinging it, right? And his foot is coming up into my crotch. He doesn't touch me. He's not touching me. But he's just swinging his leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just right up into my crotch. And I'm not really looking directly at him because Galila's talking. So I don't want to look at this person that's swinging their leg into my crotch. So I just look at Galila as she's talking, and as she's talking, I'm sure she noticed he's swinging his leg. With no explanation, I just said, well, okay, whatever. It's childlike. Because remember, at this point, according to his complaint, or according to, I call it complaint, even though it's not signed or anything, but according to his complaint, I'm sure he backdated his complaint. He backdated his complaint because my complaint occurred first. So my complaint accusing him of sexual harassment occurred first. His complaint comes after the fact because he's trying to defend for his behavior. But at this point, when he's swinging his leg in between my crotch area, I'm not aware that he has any animosity or complaints toward me. I'm not aware of that. So he's swinging his leg, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh, he's just being childlike. So let me see what else we got here. Okay, so I'm getting up on 30 minutes here. Okay, I'm doing great. All right, so I didn't want this to go too long because you guys can just read from the documentation yourself. I intend no harm to anyone at Activision. I wish everyone well, and I hope that the animators make a video of this situation. I suggest that if you walk around stone-faced and know that you may be being recorded. Don't ask about a person's weekend. Don't complain. No matter how many money damages you suffer, don't complain about it. Don't complain about anything. Just act like a robot, because most likely you are being taped without your permission. This is what Cortez Matthews said in his statement. And I believe his attorneys for Robert Half International verified that. And he also indicated that he was attempting to videotape. And I think when he says videotape and he says audio tape, he's talking about the public that comes into the building, and he's talking about employees. So, and it's not just him. I think that him and Galila and Greg, but maybe not Galila, were in this little collaboration where they were sent there to just make up something about me, to get rid of me. I think there was, retaliation because of what I've gone through before I came to Activision. But I also think this whole plot of, accusing me of doing something wrong on the job, I think this was all designed from the minute that Greg and Cortez and Galila got there, and this retaliation was created before they got there, because somebody at Activision, somebody at Williams-Lee, somebody at Robert Half International created this scenario, and that's why it occurred. But if Activision wants a war in court, bring it on. I'm ready. So please see the corresponding website on this matter, and I want to look at something real fast. With how much time we got? A little bit of time. Just want to read from one of these text messages that Cortez wrote me. Now this is, I think, when you see the documentation, you'll see that on July 11th, Cortez is complaining about my conduct on July 11th, and I'll read you part of that in a second. But on July 8th, which is just a couple of days before July 11th, he writes, he put me on a, on a group chat, MMS group chat. You can't see it, but I'm going to read it to you. Okay. Oh, yeah, you could see it a little bit. Yeah. Group chat, okay. And he says, you can see it a little bit, huh? I guess you could read it. If you put it on pause, you could see it, huh? Okay, I'll read it for you. So it says, "Hi, it's Cortez. If you guys end up putting up the stuff before I return, please put it in a box and put it in the stock room so we all can find it in the morning on Monday." Chris mentioned that it has to be done by Monday. And he says, "Have a great weekend." And let's see. I think Galila writes back and she says, "No problem." And then Cortez writes back and he says, "Perfect, thank you." Now this sounds like a very routine text message chain, right? But this is the point. The point is that when he writes his narrative just a couple days later on the 11th, And I'll read part of it to you. He says that, excuse me, this guy has always been a problem, talking about me. I've told him to leave me alone and blah, blah, blah. But here's a text message on July 8th, which is 2 days, 8, 9, 10, 11, 3 days before he makes his narrative that he was having all these problems with me. So why would you put me on a group chat if you were having problems with me and you didn't have to put me on the group chat? Why'd you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. And it contradicts everything he's saying in his statement. Let's go to another text message here from him. Let's see, hold on a second. Okay, this is kind of like the same email chain. I think he was writing me separately. You can actually read it out. Yeah, he's writing me separately. I move my finger out the way. He's writing me separately. If I can see it, you can see it at home. He's writing me separately, and he's saying blah blah blah. He's saying he created the text message chain. And again, I'll read it to you. Cool. I created the group chat now. So if it's necessary to you, do you ever need to contact about business, you may do through the group chat, so we can all be on the same page about whatever the matter might be. And I write back and I say, good idea, regards. So I think he phrased it that way instead of saying business, because he's saying if you have something personal to say just between you and me, you can still text me separately. But if you have something to say for the group, about something that needs to be done in the kitchens or the soda or something, then you can just use the group text. But again, when you read the documentations from him when he's talking, now of course you could be doing a Jesse Smollett and you could be very confused about what's going on. But obviously, if you are doing a Jesse Smollett and you're confused about stuff and you don't know what's going on, then obviously you are going to act in a very confused manner. And of course, numerous times when I had contact with him, he would say to me, this is what he would say. He would say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really do. This is what he says to me repeatedly. He doesn't say to me, there's a problem here. You can see from his text message, but you can see from his narrative that is not clearly a problem coming from me to him. You haven't seen my complaint. My complaint was very simple, that the man said to me, what is your sexual preference? That's my whole complaint against him. Okay, so does his story come first or come second? Does it come as in reaction to mine? That's what should probably have to be investigated. I want to read what he says here. And this is what he says. This is the 8th. The 8th is when he said that he had set up the group chat. And if you read everything else he's up to that point, I think you'd be wondering, if he's trying to get away from me, why is he setting up a group chat? He's accusing me of stalking him and running behind him and separating him from Galila. Why would you set up a group chat? But so on the 11th, July 11th, he says, this time, I was very stern with him and told him to stop making inappropriate comments and questions to me, or else I would have to involve someone else. At that point, just reading from that, my interpretation, he says I would have to involve someone else. At that point, he's saying I did not involve anyone else yet, meaning that your complaints did not rise to the level, or your document does not rise to the level of being a complaint by your own words, because you haven't told anybody else. So therefore, it's not to that level. It says about making inappropriate comments and questions to me, blah blah blah. I don't see from the text messages I just read to you that I have made any inappropriate comments to him. And I told him, quote unquote, here we go, I'm quoting. You can look like this if you want to. I can hold it up for you if you want to pause it and read it. It's up to you. But this is already in the documentation if you go to that website. Okay. But I'll read it to you. I told him I've been uncomfortable with him from the jump. Let's see how much time I got here. Okay. I told him I've been uncomfortable with him from the jump. Had enough. I've had enough. And that he should know better I ask that he only speaks to me about business stuff from that day forward. Okay, so sorry if there's noise in the background. Um, this is the way I read this, and not trying to be offensive to anyone. This is how I read this. This time I was very stern with him, very stern, and I told him to stop making inappropriate comments and questions to me, or else I would have to involve someone else. I told him I'd been uncomfortable from the jump, and I had enough, and that he should know better. It sounds like a script to me. It does. It sounds like a movie script. It doesn't sound like something somebody would say that. You know, if I was going through what he claims to have been going through, and somebody did something inappropriate to me, you know what I'd say? I would immediately say, "Don't do that." I would not engage in a. I don't know how long this would take to read this time. It's very stern with him. So I would not engage in 15 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds of what he says that he told me. If it happened to me, I would just, don't do that. Don't do that. And I expect that the person would walk away from me, or the person would apologize or something. But he doesn't do that. I ask that he only speak to me about business stuff from that day forward further. That doesn't make any sense. Nobody talks like that. Somebody's writing this narrative. And if you look at the first sentence, I'm going to end up here in a second here. You look at the first, this is the first page of his narrative. If you don't get to go read the whole thing, you got to read the whole thing, okay? Go read the whole thing. But this is the first page of his narrative. And he says, again, as if he wrote this, a lot of the training today was Gerry. He calls me Gerry. I don't know why he doesn't call me Gerry. It must be somebody else writing it, either Chris or Brian or somebody from Robert Half. But my name's not Gerry. A lot of the training today was, so maybe you copied and pasted it from another lawsuit or something. I don't know. A lot of the training today was Gerry and I working together, while my other employee, okay, he doesn't employ Galila. She's his co-worker, but she's not his employee. So she would either be the employee of Williams Lee, which would be Chris, or she would be the employee of Robert Half International. So it's more than likely Robert Half International wrote this for Cortez to support. And just think of how long, I mean, was this guy taking notes every day from day one? He started around, what, I think the 7th of June, I'm sorry. Was he taking notes every day? Was he taping me every day? It's amazing that they said they taped me, and yet they don't have more direct quotes. That makes sense. Okay, how could you be taping me? I'd like to see the tapes. I'd like the tapes to be released to the public. So he says, while my other employee, Galila, all right, then that means somebody from Robert Half wrote it, because Galila was not an employee of Cortez Matthews. Anyway, that's it for me. The Jesse Smollett strikes again. So, again, that's my view. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. If you did hear this, and you know, you guys have to make up your mind. I mean, make up your own mind. I'm sorry. And if you do, you do. I mean, I just accept whatever. But you know, I did the best I could. I was a hospitality person. I made sure the coffee machines were running good, that the milk was fresh and within the right date, and I tried to point out things if I thought things were unhealthy or would be harmful to other employees, and I think I did a great job. I worked with a lot of people, even though most of the employees were not back yet. There was a lot of contractors that were in and out, other than the people that were in my department, and I met some good people and some of the other buildings at the Water Garden, and I worked with some of them at the Water Garden and corresponded, and I just thought of myself as a team player. If I went to the Penn Factory, which I did often, or every once in a while I had to go back and forth and get supplies, whether paper supplies or milk or snacks or whatever. Sometimes I had to do that. Sometimes Chris directed me to do that. I just did my job, and I did my job well, so that's the best I can say. So anyway, Have a great day, and thank you so much for listening and taking a few minutes, out of your day. Thank you very much. God bless.